Yes, now we are live.
So welcome to the AirTech Fair once again. It's a knowledge sharing platform for promotion of the technologies, experience building among the stakeholders like private sector organizations, research institutes, startups, and public sector organizations. It also aims to identify areas of collaboration among these stakeholders. Clean Air Asia is an international non-government organization that was established in the year 2001 by the Asian Development Bank, the World Bank, and USAID. And this virtual exhibition here has been organized by Clean Air Asia, India. AirTech Fair started this morning with the inaugural session where we had esteemed speakers enumerating on the challenges and solutions for cleaner and healthier air. And in this session, we have a panel discussion. We are honored to have all our panelists here for this session. I'll be introducing them one by one. And the topic of the panel discussion is role of technology, innovators, incubators, and community engagement in air quality management. We have with us one of the panelists, Dr. Vivek Saxena. He's the country representative of IUCN. Dr. Saxena started his career as Indian Forest Service officer in 1992. He has over 26 years of experience in natural resource management, environmental issues, protected areas related policy and management issues, fundraising, Hindu Kush, Himalayan, environment issues of Asian sub-region of South Asia, multilateral conventions related to UNCCD, CBD, UNFCCC, sites and CMS, implementation of externally aided EU and JICA projects, forestry research, agroforestry, and so on. Dr. Saxena holds a doctoral degree in climate change and agroforestry from FRI University, India. We also have the pleasure of having with us Dr. Gary Huck, SEI affiliated researcher from SEI York Center. Welcome. His research focuses on urban air pollution, climate change, transport, community resilience, behavioral change, public engagement, and environmental assessment. Gary is currently a visiting research fellow at the Directorate of Energy, Transport, and Climate, EC, Joint Research Center in Italy, where he undertakes research to support European transport and environmental policymaking. He's a human ecologist with over 20 years of supporting the development and implementation of environmental policy in Africa, Asia, and Europe. More recently, he's been assisting in the coordination of work for the European Commission's DG Climate and DG Grow to reduce emissions from transport sector. He supports the implementation of the Strategic Transport Research and Innovation Agenda and has contributed to policy impact assessments, which involved cost-benefit analysis, policy reviews, and stakeholder consultations at a pan-European level. Welcome. We also have with us Mr. Yogesh Khakre. Welcome, sir. He's serving as Company Secretary of Bhopal Smart City Development Corporation Limited and COO of BNest Incubation Center. Mr. Yogesh Khakre is a fellow member of the Institute of Company Secretaries of India and served as chairman of Bhopal chapter of ICSI. He has around 15 years of professional experience in various corporate houses. He played a vital role to build BNest Incubation Center from scratch, making it the biggest business startup incubator of the Central India. He's working with ideation, early stage growth stage startups, and mentoring startups in domains of finance, sales, strategy, operations, and marketing. His areas of expertise include compliance of startup companies, corporate, legal, and financial services. We are also glad to have with us Mr. Pradeep TP. Welcome, sir. He's a Deputy General Manager of Robert Bosch, India. He is the leading air quality topic at Robert Bosch Engineering and Business Solutions Private Limited, Bangalore. He's responsible for development and sales of ambient air quality solutions based on Bosch, deep domain expertise in sensors, software, modeling, simulation, as well as IoT device being data, big data management, and cloud. He's been associated with the Bosch Group since 1998 and has taken up various roles in embedded software, innovative products development, and program management in various domains of mobility, infotainment, smart and connected product portfolio. And we are also glad to have with us Mr. Eric Ashley. He's a president of Alliance for Commercialization and Innovation Research. Welcome, Eric. He's a technology commercialization expert and serial entrepreneur, specializing in small business startups and international market strategies. He has managed commercialization and incubation projects in 12 countries around the world and launched and sold 2 companies based in the United States and Russia. Eric has served as a technology commercial analyst for the Department of Defense and as a manager for the India Innovation Growth Project with Lockheed Martin. Previously, Mr. Ashley was the director for the World Bank Innovation Program in Kazakhstan, and he now serves on the International Science and Commercialization Board. As president of the Alliance for Commercialization and Innovation Research, he currently runs the Nexus Innovation Hub and Incubator in New Delhi, funded by the US State Department to support the startup ecosystem in India. And moderating this session is Ms. Prarthana Bora, India Director of Clean Air Asia, who I had the pleasure of introducing in the morning session also. But for those of you who've joined us now in this session, I'd like to tell a few lines about her. She's based in Delhi, and Prarthana leads the implementation of India's strategy of Clean Air Asia, which includes working with cities to support the preparation, implementation of air action plans, and extending Breathe Life to Indian cities. She supervised the strategy for assessment of air quality management profiles of 30 Indian cities and has been responsible for conceptualizing policy support, capacity building programs for better air quality in Indian cities. So over to you, Ms. Bora.
Thank you, Mridu, for the introduction, for making my work easier. It's always difficult to talk about the backgrounds of people who have done so much work. And thank you and welcome, everyone. It's such a pleasure. I mean, Clean Air Asia has so many friends who we can work together in terms of battling for clean air. So I'm always very happy to, listen to new ideas and discussion. And this panel is really fantastic because, we've managed to get people from the 3 different pillars that we are trying to bring together: innovation, incubation, and community engagement. So I think I'm looking forward to the discussions. So I'm going to take a little bit of liberty and just decide how I want this to go, because, just generally to weave the story together. As you know, this is being held as part of the virtual Tech Fair, and technology solutions for air quality is a very strong component of Clean Air Asia's work. And the way we look at it, how can we weave technology solutions and local solutions in terms of innovations into the whole clean air action planning work that we are doing. And this is something that I mentioned in the morning too, that we're not just looking at it from the perspective of generating data, but we're also looking at sector-specific mitigation interventions. And considering the fact that there are 132 cities now which are within the non-attainment list of the National Clean Air Program, we feel that it is important that although these cities have the plans and they are working on implementation strategies, they are generating financing mechanisms. What is important is that they also have access to solutions. And by solutions for this particular discussion, I want to emphasize on technology and innovation, because Clean Air Asia as an organization that works on the ground, we feel that often when we go to a city, there is a demand for a solution that will match with the local situation. And we all know that environmentally, ecosystems are different. And similarly, in a country like India, there are diverse differences. I mean, we are we are climatically different, we are geographically different, we are culturally different. So I think the more solutions we have, it helps access, and it's very, it's good to have two speakers here from the innovation incubation space. And so I'm going to actually start with the innovation incubation space and then come into the engagement aspects. And I'd like to invite Eric as our first speaker, because I know that Eric has been very involved with young innovators. He himself is an entrepreneur, and he has been mentoring some very interesting solutions in the context of clean air. So the way we will go is that I'll allow you to make your opening remarks for 7 to 10 minutes, and then maybe we can do a short question answer, which is just going to be an interaction. So Eric, over to you.
Happy to do it. Thank you very much, Prathan. It's a pleasure to be here, and always glad to partner with Clean Air Asia. This is as we all know, this is a topic that's gaining more and more relevance and more visibility on not just in India, but on the world stage. For us at Nexus and working with ACIR with the Nexus Incubator, this has been made very clear to us in the last couple of weeks with the new US administration that a very large emphasis is going to be put on climate change and on air quality mitigation and monitoring. So this is something that as an incubator, we are taking very seriously. And the question of bringing new technologies into, whether it's on monitoring, whether it's on mitigation, whether it's on analysis, whether it's on visualization of the air pollution, all of these things are pieces of the puzzle that we want to see. And why I'm so glad to be here is that I believe incubators play a critical role in getting these new technologies out of the labs, out of the universities, and into the market. And so I'll share a couple of slides. I'm not going to go into a huge presentation here, but a couple of slides of what we see as the challenges of bringing new technologies into the market, where they're coming, specifically on air quality management, air quality mitigation. So let me just share my slides here. And the questions of what roles we believe incubators play in these technologies and helping with air quality management in general. The biggest problem that we see and that we have found working on trying to solve this solution is that we're really incubators in general are working in two different worlds. You have academia and scientific research. This is the brain power. This is where all the new technologies are coming from. And they're coming up with these new solutions and these new technologies and trying to introduce them into the market. From the industry side, they are also looking for new solutions, maybe to improve what they have already, or an open innovation on new ideas so they can crowdsource or source from, in general, the society, different solutions for problems that they know have a market demand for this. But the cultures and the languages and the idea of bridging that is very different. And it is, even though the goals are the same, these two groups are usually living on two different worlds. And so this is the role that really incubators play here, of bridging those two worlds, of bringing the academic scientific research so they can understand from the industry side, and from the industry side, understanding what's happening on the academic and research side. All too often from incubators, we see that there's just unrealistic expectations, even on just the side of their own with the incubators. So especially if they're attached to an academic institution, you'll get some organizations that are funding an incubator, are funding a tech transfer office. They got several crore from the government, perhaps from DST or BIRAC or Niti Aayog, and they, after a year or two, the administration says, "Hey, I have funded you for 2 years. Where is my next Google, right? How come I'm still paying for you? Why isn't this self-sustainable?" Which is an unrealistic expectation. And this is even more so with technologies such as air quality management or waste management, mitigation. From the industry side, they're looking and saying, "Hey, I'm happy to talk to incubators. This is a great funnel for me to take a look at technologies that are perhaps further than just the proof of concept." But I think we find this huge gap of finding these technologies coming out of academia are still not industry ready. And they're saying on the other side, "Hey, where is the Google, right? You've given me something that's a great proof of concept. You've got a paper that's been shared at a conference. This is nowhere near close to what I need as an industrial partner to bring this to the market." So who's filling that gap? And humbly, I would say that is where the incubators, if done well, this is exactly the gap they fill, is between those two and having them talk to each other. The second gap that we see with incubators is that, especially in questions like air quality management, which is such a huge problem here in India and around the world, is growing, is that there's this question between the nation needs this and industry needs this. We at Nexus, at our incubator, see plenty, every cohort of some great technologies, great innovations that are coming up in air quality monitoring, whether it's sensors, again, whether it's visualization of the data, whether it's the actual mitigation. And one of the questions that we have, the biggest gap we see, is that the startups or the researchers come to us with this idea and say, this is needed by the world. This is needed by India. Here's my technology. Where's my 40 crore check, right? And it just doesn't work that way. And that's what, from the industry side, they're saying they really have to understand how this is going to be implemented. Even if this technology is a breakthrough technology in air quality management, that doesn't mean the government of India or the government of the United States is going to say, wonderful, we're going to make this mandatory for every organization under our control. We've actually had startups in our cohort saying, this is our go-to-market strategy. We just need to convince somebody high up. Just get me talk to Mr. Modi, right? Let me talk to Joe Biden, and he will understand, and then it'll be made mandatory for the government and everybody's happy. That's not how it happens, especially in these technologies where it's environmentally based. You have to understand the point from industry and the point of the academics to get them together to get this in the marketplace. Now, I've listed here, why incubators can play such a good role, because if they're with an academic institution, they have access to the facilities, the brain power. They can bring in sponsored research or grants from the government that can move those technologies forward. And they can also liaison with industry to help publicize some of these grand challenges and open innovations and bridging that gap. But we find it's less of that problem and more the mental problem of understanding that there has to demonstrate a market need so that this can be pushed forward and be put into the market on a regular basis. So humbly, I would say to our industries and to our other incubators that we've worked with, 2 small suggestions of being able to accelerate and successfully bring air quality or in general mitigation, environmental mitigation technologies to the marketplace. First of all, we have to be much more aligned with industry. I see way too many academic incubators that are great on maybe getting the technology and having a proof of concept or having a lab concept. And those technologies, even if they're patented, are just lying on the shelf. And they don't know how to get them to the industry side. This is a systematic problem for incubators in the sense that you get what you measure. So if you're at an institute, an IIT or an IIM or wherever, and you're measuring patents, you're going to get patents. That is not the same as commercializing patents or licensing patents. If you measure peer-reviewed papers, you will get peer-reviewed papers. And I'm not in any sense saying those are bad things. Academic, that's what you should be doing. But if you really want to start talking about technology commercialization, you have to put some incentives in there for the faculty and for the startups themselves so that it's not up to them to overcome some internal bureaucratic hurdles. Secondly, I just want to say that the practical tools that we need to help faculty and startups get their technologies into the marketplace have to be even stronger than what has been done before. E-cells, if you're going to have e-cells, that's great. Bring in industry speakers, bring in entrepreneurs that how to do this. Entrepreneurship and starting companies is not a theoretical business. It is extremely practical. And so you need people who have actually gone through and do that. If you're teaching entrepreneurs, you need to have entrepreneurs on staff or at least on call. Your tech transfer offices have to have professionals, not just to pull up the legals documentation, but understanding how to negotiate licensing deals with industry. And finally, the legal department, if you have those with incubators, with your academics, have a basic forms that makes it easier, but more importantly, have lawyers that speak English. Not in the sense of English versus German versus Spanish. Don't speak like a lawyer, because I'm not a lawyer, and the startup person, I have no idea what you're saying when you say, herefore on the third part, if it's not repugnant to the second part, I don't know what you're talking about. So have lawyers that can describe these things to entrepreneurs and say, this is what this means. Again, I can't tell you how many times as an incubator, I've had startups and they said, we're finally licensed this technology. We've got it from the university. Here's our deal. And then we're going to go work with this other company. I said, well, let me just take a look at the contract and I'll read some of it. And I say, I don't understand this paragraph 4. Do you? And the startup says, I don't understand either. That's what they told me. The fact that you could sign a document that you don't understand is not good for anybody. Not that the university is trying to take advantage of anybody, but you have to understand what you're doing. And these are kind of steps that we think that you can help get startups more along the advanced path to commercialization and working with industry. Because right now, let's be very fair and very honest, there is a large gap. It's not just in India, it's in many countries around the world, of trust between industry and academia. And the way that incubators can bridge that gap and try to bring those sides together will be immensely measurable and beneficial to both sides, because we all have the same goal here, is getting these great new technologies into the market. And in India, I'll just finish that. In India, the amount of world-class engineers, world-class professionals, the type of technologies, the innovation, the passion that I see is unmatched anywhere in the world. Getting the system to actually help with those technologies and get them in the market and get them in the hands of industry, we have work to do. We've come a long way in the last 4 years, but we've got a long way to go. So that, an extremely brief 7 to 8 minutes there, is some of the questions that I've seen about the challenges and opportunities we have in India about getting some of these technologies in air quality management to the market. But I'll stop there and hopefully we can have a discussion with my esteemed colleagues here and maybe take questions from people in the audience as well.
Thank you, Eric. I think that was a great introduction to the session, and the idea is that, you know, we talk about a lot of solutions and innovations in the space, but the challenge of actually bringing it to the cities is what I think Cleaner Asia is trying to kind of work with organizations like yours and incubators like yours and others to see how we could bridge that gap, because we know that there is a problem on the ground, but how do you actually match? And I think what came out of your talk was that, you know, the matching is very important, whether it is between the industry and the academia or it is between the solution and the problem. So I think that was a great introduction. I'm going to shift the discussion from the incubation to somebody who's been working on technology and has been very successful in actually bringing air pollution monitoring technology to some of our Indian cities. And I think Bosch is now supporting the several cities in terms of preparing the monitoring framework. So Pradeep, I'm going to now just invite you to give your perspective from the fact that you have an established organization, you have, it's a well-known technology, and how much do you agree with Eric on what he said, and how do you think that your approach is different if you want to address the issue of air pollution in the cities, and how do we actually look at marrying major industry and some of these innovative solutions?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Pratana. Thanks for bringing the technology, the incubators in a common platform so that the cities and the citizens would get maximum benefit out of this. Can you see my desktop? Is this visible now?
Yes, we can see it now.
Okay.
You have 7 minutes.
So Bosch is committed for addressing the global challenges, especially the climate change and carbon neutral emissions, which are sustainable, ecological, and which are socially responsible actions. All 140 plus locations of Bosch globally, we are carbon neutral in 2020. Whether it is climate change or bringing the emission regulations across the globe. Yeah, for example, the Bharat Stage 6, the fuel injection systems for India, most of the components for the emission is from Bosch. And I would like to mention here that with the introduction of BS6 in India, at least the transport and mobility sector emissions are reduced by 50 up to 90% when it comes to the commercial vehicles or off-highway vehicles or the diesel gensets. So there is a a considerable significant reduction in the emissions from the transport sector with the introduction of BS6. Similarly, we are also working on eco-friendly mobilities, electrification, alternative fuels. Yeah, so these are the conventional Bosch areas where we have already brought the solutions. In addition to this, recently we have also started providing the air quality solution for the cities, and also to address the lower segment for biomass chula. For example, in India and some countries, still biomass is used as an indoor fuel, and this chula would reduce the emissions by more than 50%, also increases the efficiency of the heating. So this, we are working across the value chain to bring down the emissions to improve the quality of life of the citizens. Now, coming specific to the National Clean Air Program, the government has announced for the Clean Air Program for 132 cities. There is a clear program mandate to reduce by 30% emissions by next 2024. So where we would like to contribute is wherever the technology and wherever we can bring the international experiences. Yeah, for example, to enhance the monitoring network, bring in new technologies, provide a deep study on the source apportionment studies. See, it's a very vast exercise to conduct all this simultaneously in all 132 cities. So we need to bring in the technologies what is being already used. For example, creating a national emission inventory, certification systems for the monitoring, new technology monitoring instruments, whether it is forecasting system, capacity building, technology assessments. So there are a lot of areas where technology can bring in a leapfrog solution to this across the sectors. Yeah, though we are major primarily into the transport and mobility, but there are solutions which can be deployed across the segments. I would like to show some of the solutions which we have deployed and the benefits in the coming slides. So what we have done, yeah, this I will take some examples what we have done in India. For example, in Pune and Lucknow, we have deployed the sensors network across the city. Yeah, in Pune, it is around 50 locations we have done. And we are collecting the live data from the sensors. And then in the backend, we do artificial intelligence, machine learning, we have a deep knowledge of sensors, software, and services. So first aspect of this is to monitor, collect the data, which we have been doing for the last 2-3 years. 2017 we have deployed this, and we have a lot of data now. Why this is required? This will give a framework for affordable and scalable monitoring technologies. The existing technologies what is available today is yeah, we cannot scale up for 4,000 plus towns where there is no monitoring network. Yeah, so to bring in this match of the technology and to fill in the gaps, existing gaps, we need to adapt such systems to improve the decision support systems, improve the database and the reporting. So this is step one, collection. In addition to the collection of data, there are various other factors or other influencing factors like meteorology data, like the building conditions, like the fleet availability in India. Like, so we have other, so when we bring the existing air quality monitoring data together with the external monitoring, which are today in isolation. We have traffic data as an isolation. We have meteorology data as an isolation. When we can put all this, integrate this data sources together and generate dispersion models, we will be able to identify the hotspots in the city and then trigger specific civic awareness and the mitigation plan only for these hotspots. Instead of having a city wide generic plan, yeah, it is very difficult to monitor what is been implemented, where it is implemented, and what is the benefits that it is getting. It's very difficult to measure that. Instead, identify the hotspots using the technologies, implement in those hotspots, then measure it in those hotspots. So it's easy to monitor, measure. So now I would also like to bring in few examples what we have done in London. In London, the major problem is the traffic emissions are the major sources of emissions, and particulate matter and nitrogen dioxide are the two sources. So what we did, we worked with Transport for London for this project. We deployed in some of the busiest streets, yeah, where the contribution was maximum from the transport emissions. Then after studying this data, doing the modeling and roadside traffic, monitoring the roadside traffic emissions and doing the dispersion modeling plus real-time monitoring, all this was done in the cloud using the latest AIML. So you can see the difference. Yeah, after this, what was made is a free flow of traffic without the bottlenecks in the junctions. This was rerouted. So we have tied up with the leading traffic simulation providers. So this data was added into the traffic simulation providers, and you could clearly see the difference between what was the condition earlier from the emission from the traffic, and after rerouting and reducing the traffic bottlenecks, how the emissions looks like. So these are some of the examples what we have done. Yeah. So I would also like to give you one more example. What we have done. This was done in Stuttgart, in Germany. Again, there were few traffic bottlenecks in one of the busiest street in Stuttgart. By minimizing the accelerations and enabling the continuous traffic flow, using the signaling and keeping the various data sets from the city together, we were able to improve 20% or reduce 20% NOx emissions in the city project. So the Brixton project, what I showed, so we took all the 3D data of the city, all the meteorological data, traffic flow data. So this is how, by putting the data together, we will be able to bring in. And also, I would like to highlight one more case study. This is again a steel manufacturing plant in India. We all know the industries are mandated, especially the big industries are mandated to have some kind of monitoring, which is a reference station. Yes, they add the station, but the infrastructure cost to deploy the station and the manpower required to run the station, it's a huge cost for the industries. So we work together with this industry to find out which are the hotspots in the city. So I will just yeah. So this is around 7 to 8 square kilometers of area. So the existing reference station was deployed here. It will be green most of the time of the day. It will be green. But if you want to improve, you have to measure across the campuses. Yeah. So we deployed the sensor network across the campus. We were able to pinpoint what time of the day, what process is contributing to the emissions, and then the operations team could take actions. Okay, these are the operations that are creating the hotspots in this junction. So they need not implement across the site or across the campus. Look at the processes, look at what time of the day these hotspots are coming, and then take the corrective action for this. So we have deployed such solutions in US, Europe, and also in India. And finally, I would like to mention that we have also got the recognition or innovation awards for this deploying this solution. The fun, we have worked with the Pune Smart City, what I mentioned to you, and there was an event where we showcased that bringing all the data sets of the city together with the urban ministry and the Pune Smart City, that and also open this data to the startups, to the citizens. Thereby, the integration can be more seamless. They can bring in a lot of other data sets together, bring benefits directly to the citizens, bring more innovations. So we opened this data to the public and also showed how we can bring different data sets and show the benefits to the city. We also got the awards from IoT World Congress Barcelona and Consumer Electronics Show at Las Vegas. So these are some of the success stories from this, and we would like to continue doing this in other cities and bring the benefit to the citizens. So that's a short presentation from my side. If you have any questions, I would like to take it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Pradeep. We'll do the question answers slightly later, and
Yeah.
thank you very much for your presentation. And I think what was very interesting is that Pradeep gave us a good overview on what are the areas, some of the areas where we can plug in technology and what kind of solutions can come in from there. I would again want to move back to the innovation space, and I'm so happy to have Yogesh with us. I've known Yogesh now for the last 4 years, when we started working with Bhopal Smart City to help them plan their clean air plan, as well as also look at how the monitoring system to create their smart data monitoring system for air quality. And Yogesh is one of these very enthusiastic youngsters who I think he works almost I don't know how many, 16 hours a day, because I always see him working. And I think I want to bring in Yogesh here to also kind of correlate with what Pradeep has just shown us, because he actually leads the Smart City Incubator of Bhopal City, and they have a lot of youngsters who are developing interesting solutions. And I've visited the center several times and met with a lot of youngsters. So Yogesh, why don't you tell us about some of these innovative solutions and how we could actually replicate some of the work that a large organization like Bosch is doing? Because many a time a city may not have adequate financing to implement. So is there a way in which we can look at also bringing in some of the smaller solutions if a city is not able to do the integrated work that someone like Bosch is doing? Yogesh.
Thanks to Clean Air Asia and Pradnaji for the invitation, and it's a pleasure to be part of the tech fair on air quality. And as we have heard, Eric and Pradeep ji, they've mostly covered what incubation provides the services to the startups and the overall ecosystem. And on the technology part, Pradeep ji has also mentioned about what are the innovative solutions. But any idea or solution, unless is having a strong business model, I think it cannot be successful. It has to be self-sustainable, self-fund generating model. Any idea which is backed by a strong business model, then it will be a successful business model and successful startup. So incubators here plays a very crucial role, as they are creating and acting as a bridge for idea to execution by creating that ecosystem, environment, and access to the resources. The challenge in the tier 2 cities like Bhopal, there's not many industrial infrastructure available. So the ecosystem was missing. And Bhopal Smart City, being a government organization, has launched BNest Foundation, Central India's biggest sector agnostic incubation center, on 8th of May 2018, supported by state government. So BNest has pioneered in a way in fostering innovation and entrepreneurship as this state-of-the-art 12,000 square feet incubation center dedicated to lay a strong foundation for the development of an entrepreneurial ecosystem in Central India. So what we are doing, like first, being a smart city, we have to implement smart, innovative solution to cater the problems. What are the problems faced by the city? And basically air quality. So in a traditional way, what Pradeep ji has shown in the presentation, that they have also worked with Pune Smart City. So there also, and here in Bhopal, we have installed 100 smart poles with environmental sensors at different locations in the city, covering all types of area, high and low traffic zones, industrial areas, residential areas. So the aim is to gather comprehensive and real-time data of air quality in all parts of the city and provide statistics for preventive actions to be taken by the authority. Now, what the innovative part is that few of our startups, like one I would like to mention, that he has come up with a solution called Vayu. It is a drone tech startup, drone-based mobile air pollutant monitoring. So with the help of smart poles, what we are doing in a conventional way, we are putting sensors on a smart poles that is static. they are giving a static data. But with the help of drone technology, it is giving a dynamic data, real-time data. So utilizing drone to scan a real-time gas distribution in 2D and 3D model, and quickly identifying the type, location, and transportation of air pollution, which provides actionable information to the decision makers, like smart city or a traffic police or pollution control board. So the drone carries a device and stabilize a camera which gathered gas data from device, picture from the camera, and flight data from the drone, and transmit to the remote control of the drone in the real time. So that data can be integrated with the control and command center of Bhopal Smart City. And we can see the heat maps. We can even, we are, as you know, that we are having an intelligent traffic management system, right? ITMS. So we can redirect the traffic from particular road where we are seeing the heat map to the any other green zone. So by creating the green zone with the help of adaptive traffic management system, so that we can minimize the adverse effect of the pollutants in the air quality in particular area. So these are the innovative collaboration of smart city as well as of our startups and startups in our incubation center. Another is like putting outdoor air purifiers. So one of our startups have created an is working on creating outdoor air purifiers, which will be they are coming up with a POC with a smart city. And now we are planning to implement on the roadside near junctions where we are having a much pollutant area. So we are putting those outdoor air purifiers, which is a very innovative solution, which is a very reasonable, reasonably defined product. So the challenge of a government, what I want to say is the challenge of a government is we cannot hire service, we cannot pick and choose the services directly. We have to do a tender. We have to go by a global tendering process. And that is our limitation. So what I can request to Pradeep ji, to the company, he's heading like Bosch, so that he can directly pick and choose the solutions which has been provided by startups, youngsters. We are having limitation to go for tender, but you are not having that certain limitations. You can see the POC. If you are satisfied with the solution, you can directly adopt by giving a work order. So one suggestion is for you, and another is for Clean Air Asia, that last time when we are discussing, we had a hackathon, and we have added one domain for air quality index, like for air solution provider. So what we can do is we can identify those startups who can support in this noble cause, but we need a nodal agency like Clean Air Asia for the support to the startups by setting up a cohort of startups working on an innovative solution for improving air quality. Second is to access to domain experts who can guide the startups in developing their solutions. Access to the data that may help us the startups in updating their solutions. Handholding support to develop the tech, test the POC of startups. Then access to the government network of Clean Air Asia for startups to conduct the POC for the solutions. Creation of corpus fund, if it can be possible, because you have access to outreach to the other nations also. So by creating that corpus fund, Clean Air Asia can invest in startups working on innovative solutions for improving air quality. So like I have heard in the morning session, Professor Bhattacharya rightly said that green technology is very costly. So if given an opportunity to startups, they can showcase very innovative solution at a lesser cost. What we can do is to help them to make a scalable model as an incubator. So this is a few suggestions from my side.
Thank you, Yogesh. And I think those are some great solutions. I'm going to go back to Eric for the cohort after we finish listening to the other people. And I think you really touched upon some points. I think we've been also discussing the issue of mentorship of larger companies in terms of looking at startups and how we could actually link it in terms of scaling the work, because as we all say, there's 132 cities and they all need support. So it can't be done by just a single incubator or a single company. So how how do we actually bring more solutions to everyone. I'm going to shift the focus a bit, and I'm going to invite Vivek Saxena, who has been a very close partner with Clean Air Asia in terms of building capacity of cities. And I'm just going to ask Vivek to make some comments in terms of how we can build in this technology solutions from the perspective of a city, because he has also been part of the city administration earlier, and even now works very closely with the city. So Vivek, can you throw some light in terms of how you think that we could look at these solutions in the context of the capacity building work, as well as how cities could use these solutions in terms of air quality management?
Thank you, Pratna ji, and I think we really had a very good discussion so far, bringing incubator, then from the Pradeep ji, the various type of technological solutions from the Yogesh ji also, and the real challenges of integrating all those things into air quality management. So certainly the capacity building in the cities for integrating these monitoring devices, and accordingly that using IoT and other all these tools for adaptive traffic management, because ultimate the objective is that we have to provide to the citizens a quality of air which is breathable, and it adversely impacts the environmental health. So accordingly, the district administration at the governance level also, they also need to have some sort of a capacity building that how these technologies can be useful for day-to-day governance mechanisms, in a way how they can be integrated through the adaptive traffic management. And parallelly with that, since I am from IUCN, ultimately the nature-based solutions, because all these monitoring devices and all this adaptation thing comes because first we create the problem of having more and more emissions, then come the challenges of monitoring of these emissions, and then how to reduce it further through various type of management practices like traffic management or other issues. So at the same time, in terms of the capacity building along those areas, if the monitoring mechanism also include that the areas which have a better green belt, to what extent they are really able to reduce the adverse effect of the air pollution, and to showcase to the local people, the local citizens, that what the important role the green spaces play. So in the overall designing also, this is a very, very important aspect. And certainly the various type of solutions, especially Pradeep ji has mentioned that their company is providing, and they have been carbon neutral in most of their operations and like that. But the real challenge in the cities, like when we are witnessing in the national capital region, Delhi, Gurugram, Faridabad, Noida and all, and when we see that the traffic management, because source apportionment, that transport sector is one of the major contributor, and apart from that, other is the construction sector. So accordingly, some sort of a monitoring devices also, where simultaneously a lot of construction is going on, and how to address these through some sort of a communication mechanism to the local governance authorities, how to adopt different type of practices, though there are some set regulations and rules for the construction sector related air pollution also. But at the same time, there can be number of such type of monitoring in related to that also, that in a particular locality, what are the hot spots for you get the most of the air pollution from the construction sector, and from the traffic movement within a particular hour, that which are the peak hours where you have the maximum contribution from the transport sector because of the various emissions. Apart from that, suggestions that you go for the cleaner fuels and or like that. So how to regulate when you have some sort of a peak traffic hours, that how to segregate it, linking it with the some sort of a communication with the governance authorities, so that in a particular area, if there are a large number of offices are located, then how to have you can say staggering of the office timings accordingly, so that the flow of the traffic also addresses to some extent the air pollution challenges. So these are some of my initial thoughts when you want to integrate various type of technological solutions, the monitoring devices, and at the same time linking it with the management aspects for combating air pollution. And I am really grateful that Clean Air Asia has brought all the eminent experts, incubators from the technology side as well as academia side to at a common platform to have some sort of a brainstorming that on this very, very important issue, because this air pollution challenge is certainly a very, very important factor, not only for the planetary health, but also for the human health, especially in the urban cities. Thank you very much, Pratna.
Thank you, Vivek. That was a good overview of some of the issues or some of the areas that probably incubators can and innovators can look into. I'd like to now invite Gary. Gary is an air quality management specialist. So I think it would be interesting to hear, Gary, from you, and also, because we will obviously reflect something that an organization like ours is doing, that how is it that we could actually integrate some of these issues, and what is the need for, the community engagement as far as, bringing together some of these solutions to the cities, so that there is a demand for these local solutions, and that can create a multiplier effect in terms of pushing policy to actually implement some of these local solutions.
Okay, thank you, and good afternoon, and thank you for the invitation. It's been really interesting to hear the speakers before me about the different types of technologies. So looking from a kind of community perspective, we can have technology, as we said, to monitor better air quality, to new technologies to mitigate in terms of reducing emissions, to analyze and to visualize data. And I guess it goes back to, and we saw some of the case studies in London with traffic and other things, but ultimately I think having information alone, if we're providing data, we could have a better understanding of the state of air quality. But then the question arises, if you raise awareness of your community, of your population, of the state of air quality, the question, well, what can they do about it? And so that is a challenge, and we're seeing that, especially going back to the London example, in London, where we do have sophisticated air quality monitoring, that school children are worried that they're living in an area of high levels of pollution. So it goes back to, it's good to have the information, it's good to have the technology, but ultimately, how can we empower the community to do something? So going back to what we've probably discussed in the past is about engaging the community. We talk about awareness raising. Awareness raising is one thing, but in order to raise awareness, just because you know about, say, the state of air quality or what you're doing is wrong, it doesn't mean you're going to think it's important. So it's understanding the state of air quality, or awareness of the problem, but then but changing your attitude, having an attitude to say, okay, that air quality is important, but then having that attitude to change your behavior to the mitigation. And we've known that people consider air pollution is important, or climate change is important, but don't necessarily or less willing to change their behavior. So you have this value action gap. So when it comes to the technology, that we see this again, going to the transport example, is electric vehicle technology and the public acceptance of we want to, at least here in the UK, is to ban petrol and diesel vehicles, but there's a reluctance to accept new technologies. So I guess when we talk about technology, at least new vehicle technology or new innovative technology, you need to bring the public along with you to accept that they're willing to do that. In terms of another part which I found interesting, which we've seen, is the whole engagement of citizen science and low-cost sensors. And I think that is another way of engaging the public. We've seen from the evidence that by using citizens to collect data and using low sensor technology, it allows them to have a greater connection to the problem and willing to change their behaviors and to advocate for cleaner air. But So that's my initial reaction to the kind of technology. But I guess it comes back to now is if we understand better the state of air quality, then the question is what mitigation actions can we take, and how can technology either facilitate and help communities to foster behavioral change. And I do think there is a big opportunity there. And we're seeing that with, for example, shared mobility, transport being a big source of transport emissions, and the use of apps, as well as the monitoring. So I think going back to your question, Prathna, about how can we engage the community? I think technology is one thing, but my fear is that sometimes we think technology, at least technology that reduces emissions, is beneficial to everybody. And I think it's important to understand that maybe some technologies could have a negative impact on vulnerable and disadvantaged groups. So it's really, I think it's important to take an holistic approach of, yes, it's great we have technology to understand the state of air quality, but we need to empower communities to be able to do something. We need to use technology to facilitate behavior change and reduce their emissions, but also we need to be aware of the potential impacts, negative or positive, can have on certain disadvantaged communities. And then just to finish, another study that we've been working with in the UK is about how can this kind of facilitation. There was one study funded by the UK government, was to look at retrofitting, I think it's rickshaws in Nepal with electric batteries. And that was a way of, by using that, is to promote kind of low emission mobility, but allowing people to continue to use the low emission mobility, to use rickshaws for longer, over a longer period. And so there are benefits of technology on livelihoods, but we need to be aware of the potential negative impacts.
Thank you, Gary. I think that was very helpful because, you know, Yogesh mentioned the outdoor purifier, and I think there's a lot of discussion in terms of what is the right technology and what is not, because, you know, there is adaptation and there is mitigation, and you know, whether it's respirators or masks or, you know, purifiers, they are mostly in the, I mean, you would consider them within the sphere of adaptation and not so much mitigation. But for us, it is this is actually a forum where we generate dialogues. So I mean, it is not for us to validate what is good or what is bad, but I think it's good to have everything out there in the open so that we can have a proper discussion and see what works best. We don't have much time, so I don't think I'll have a question session. I'm just going to run through all of you once quickly to make your closing comments in terms of how do you think, what should be an ideal way to go forward if we want to bring technology solutions to cities, and how do you think, what would you think could an organization like Clean Air Asia do in terms of supporting, you know, say incubators, innovators, and help in, you know, kind of making cities understand as well as find ways to bring, you know, to get proper solutions for clean air. So Eric, I go with you first.
Sure. Thank you, Prathna. In my opinion, the platform that Clean Air Asia has and the multiple stakeholders across many countries and many municipalities is one of its biggest strengths. And so by able to use that platform to bring together industry, government, and researchers or academia or incubators on one platform, whether that's a innovation challenge, whether that's an open innovation call, I think it would be beneficial for everybody. So for industry, they're getting a huge look at some funnels of great new technology that might be interesting to them. Municipalities and governments are being able to take a look at technology that would then be proven, because they're not just a proof of concept, they'll be going through incubation, maybe industrial handholding. And for the startups, of course, they would get some advantages by connecting to large stakeholders who are interested in either funding or collaborating with them. So I think by having maybe in the future, CAA being able to bring those partners together and have some of those competitions, grand challenges, working with governments and industry who's interested in is to promote these technologies, for different reasons, but the end goal is the same, I think would be a wonderful opportunity to bring all three of those together for mutual benefit.
Thank you. Pradeep.
So, Pratana, from my side, the Clean Air platform, we can bring in all the stakeholders in this platform, and you can identify 1 or 2 pilot cities, yeah, to try out this, putting the incubators, technologies, and the cities and the ministries, yeah, and align with the program what is currently framed by the government, so that there will be a win-win situation for all the players as well as the government, yeah, and you act as a nodal agency between the stakeholders and the government and the city, so we can demonstrate the benefits to the cities by doing some pilot. So this is what I would recommend as a first step. Then scaling, once we do in few cities, then scaling is much easier.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to shift the question, a slight change to Yogesh, because I think even if you do all this, I think one of the challenge is financing. So what do you think would be an ideal way to mobilize financing? And you talked about a business model a lot. So I just want to understand how we could facilitate that kind of a process. Other organizations, not just Clean Air Asia.
So in government, central government in Prarambh, Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji has said that they have launched a SISF scheme, Startup India seed funding scheme, on the basis of POC. So for financing part, like startup, those who are engaged with the incubators, they can this is the fund which is only being given to the eligible startup by eligible incubator. So this can be the funding solution for getting initial seed capital up to 25 to 30 lakh to test the model. So then they can approach to the private players also for private equity and venture capitalists getting funded once the solution is tested and tried by any government or any private organization. Second is that I know that you are creating a web portal for innovative solutions and what adaptive technology is coming up. So I suggest you that Pradeep ji has already said that you are the nodal agency and connecting with all the stakeholders. You can, on that platform, you can mention all the best practices by any startup incubation center or any smart cities. Like we are the first city, Bhopal is the first city who have adopted e-vehicles in all our government organization in smart city. And we have replaced all the pool vehicles by adopting 10 e-vehicles, right? And the second phase, we are creating a charging corridor across city. So we have identified 120 charging station points where we can do this implementation with the help of Energy Efficient Service Limited. EESL is a subsidiary of NTPC. So without any tendering process, we have done a MOU with that government agency and we have adopted the solution. So you can mention about the best practices, what other cities and what Bhopal has done, so that we can co-learn and come with a proper solution collaboratively. Thank you.
Thank you. Your comments on how we can bring in technology solutions for cities?
I'm sorry, Prathana, who was that directed to? Who was that?
Vivek. Sorry, Vivek. Sorry.
Sorry, Prathana, I think. So certainly some of the things which we have discussed, the real challenge is that finance is one, but apart from that, the greater role of the platform of the Clean Air Asia to bring all these related technologies and can say monitoring mechanisms which are available, and simultaneously capacity building, awareness and sensitization. So an integration of all these aspects, and so that optimization of the action at the ground to monitor and also mitigate the air pollution. So that can be, I think, one of the key learning from the today's deliberation, because we know there are incubators, we know there are technologies, we know there are latest IoT related things in which you can integrate with the adaptive management. But at the same time, appropriate finance, appropriate technology, integration with the action at the ground through the involvement of all relevant stakeholders. I think that is the real challenge.
Thanks, Vivek. Gary, I'd like to end with a very... with a slide.
If you
Yes.
allow me, just there is also a PLI scheme, Production Linked Investment Scheme, launched by government. So it is going to support the indigenous production of innovative solution. So you can go, you can redirect with that also. If any innovative solution is indigenously produced by any startup or any traditional company, that they can avail a subsidy and the benefit of PLI scheme. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That is very, very helpful, because I think financing of startups is something that, I mean, we often discuss. Eric and I have been talking about it too. Finally, I'm going to end with Gary. A slightly complicated question, because he's actually the expert in the sector. All solutions or selective solutions? How do we find the balance as an organization? Because, as I said, adaptation, mitigation,
Yeah,
validated, non-validated.
I think going back to the initial question to answer this question is that I think Clean Air Asia has great potential, and it has demonstrated this over the years of convening all these different stakeholders from industry, city, government, local government, national community groups. It has the ability to do that. And I think by having this, I always thought, a holistic approach, I think you're able then to select, to understand, to take a holistic approach to potential solutions, that all solutions are not necessarily the best solutions. Yeah. And therefore, I don't know. So we would talk about the air purifiers. I guess it would be interesting, and I'm sure you could tell me, Yogesh, this about how much energy do they actually use? Maybe it's solar panel, I don't know. But he's taken the whole life cycle and understanding of these new solutions. So I don't think all solutions. I think selective solutions. And I need a holistic assessment to look at the social, economic, and environmental impacts of these solutions. And I think Clean Air Asia is in a great position to do that, and has demonstrated that in the past, and hopefully in the future as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I have like some 5 pages of notes that I have got, and I thank you a lot for all your inputs. And I think it's always a huge learning experience getting people together, and I think it's also very nice to have a diverse group, because you have multiple viewpoints, which helps you engage in your thought process better. I'd like to now hand over to Mridul if there are any questions from the audience, if you want to see that, and then, or otherwise, for concluding the session. Thank you.
I don't think we have time for question answer session. This, the entire discussion was so fruitful, so informative. And in case we have any questions, then maybe we can answer them, in the chat group later on. So emphasizing on the role of technology and innovation, incubator and engagement space in context of clean air was this eminent panel of experts from various diverse fields. They enumerated on the work being done and the way forward. There are many challenges that have to be overcome, and but there are solutions. As Gary said, we have to choose the selective solutions. The session was very well moderated by India Director of Clean Air Asia, Ms. Pratna Bora. And I'd like to thank all the panelists once again for their inputs, for their insights. What is needed is the synergic efforts, where the efforts can be integrated, and then only we can achieve the achievable. So we'll be having presentations by our innovators at 3:30 p.m. Until that time, please feel free to visit our exhibitors' booths and participate in the slogan writing competition. There is also a quiz of the online contest. So please make yourself aware of all these activities that are happening on our fair. So thank you so much for now. See you at 3:30 again. Thank you.
Okay, we are live.
Okay. So hello everyone. Welcome once again to AirTech Fair organized by Clean Air Asia, India. Well, air is a precious resource. Keeping it clean and healthy is our duty. In the present times where air pollution is a big challenge, there is growing awareness amongst people also to keep the air we breathe clean and pristine. And many innovators are rising to the occasion and unveiling technologies and products that improve the air quality. And in our innovators panel this evening, we have three such innovators or people representing their companies that innovate. Welcome, Sanjay Maurya.
I'm Ritu. Hey, everyone.
Founder of You Breathe. Hi, Sanjay. And we also have with us Dhairyash Rathore from Smart Air Filters Private Limited. He's the India head. Hi, Dhairyash.
Hello, everyone.
And
Hello,
with us Akanksha Priyadarshini from Phoenix Robotics Private Limited.
Hi, Madhu.
Yeah. Good to have you. Akanksha, please try and be a little louder because we can hardly hear you. But for the time being, you can mute yourselves as I request Sanjay Maurya to make his presentation. Well, Mr. Sanjay Maurya, as I said, is the co-founder of UBreathe, a technology entrepreneur focusing on the environment with a background in science, engineering, and business, building clean tech solutions to improve upon air problems associated with urbanization. He has keen interest in organizing and solving unstructured problems. So over to you, Mr. Sanjay.
Thank you so much, Mridhu, for the nice and such warm words. It's good to be here, presenting our work with all of you guys. And yeah, so a quick introduction of our work. We at Urban Air Labs, we started our work in 2018. The idea has been to work on social problems of urban cities. As we see, there are three fundamental elements of our life: food, water, and air. And because of the rapid urbanization, all of these three elements have been hampered, both in terms of quality and the access to the clean supply of all the three items, so be it food, water, or air. While food and water, we have seen a lot of innovations and a lot of work happening over the last so many years, but air as a segment, as a problem, has been ignored for a very long time. So air pollution issue has been there for almost 20 and more than 20 years, but there has not been a very aggressive strategy which has been taken up by any stakeholder in the last few years, and which is why we have such a high level of pollutions in most of our urban cities, and India represent almost 90% of the top most polluted cities in the entire world. So with our work, we wanted to change all of that. We realized that there are existing solutions available. It's just that there has to be an approach taken wherein we try to bring in more sustainable technologies for this space, so that while trying to solve a problem, we do not create another set of problem. So with that thought in mind, we started working on exploring nature-based technologies to find the solution for air pollution problem. Um, we have been very fortunate to have sort of make progress in terms of our technology. What we do is we essentially magnify the purification impact through the natural plants by almost 100 times. So which means the natural indoor plants that you get from the market, which generally are marketed as natural air purifiers, we magnify the purification impact through those plants. So our flagship product is UBreathe, which is a complete plant-based product, plant-based air purifier, which is suited for urban cities and households in those metro cities. So yeah, so that's the quick introduction, and yeah, would be happy to take any questions or anything going forward in this session. So yeah, thank you.
Mr. Sanjay, would you like to elaborate a bit on this? When you say that you magnify the effect of the indoor plants, how do you do that?
Right. uh, Let me try to share my screen as well, so that we can see some of the products that we are building. So this is the product that we have already developed. So as you can see, this is a plant-based purifier. So essentially what happens in our product, there are three critical elements to it. So one is the hardware part. So essentially this pot that you see, it's a simplistic product, simplistic pot from outside, but from inside, it's a very complex product. So what happens when you plug this product to the power, it activates the absorption that happens in the soil root zone, and that is where the maximum amount of purification happens with a plant. So when you turn the pot on, it activates the whole process, and that is how the whole airflow is managed in a way that the maximum amount of polluted air is absorbed from the top surface of the soil. The design is made in such a way that the air remains inside this pot for a bit, since it is a biological process. So you need to give certain time for the biological process to happen. And once the cleaning has happened, the fresh and the clean air is thrown out of the system. So that is the overview of the technology. We call it breathing roots technology. It's already filed for patent in India, and we are also filing for the patent outside of India as well. So yeah, so that's the overview of the technology.
So that really is very interesting and very, very innovative. Next speaker is Mr. Dhairyash Rathore. He's the India head of Smart Air. He has a deep understanding of philanthropic projects and brings his international experience to Smart Air for the company's growth. He's been organizing clean air workshops to raise air pollution awareness for the people in India. And now let's see what his company has innovated.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Madhu. Thanks for a wonderful introduction. Yeah, so as I mentioned, I'm from Smart Air. So actually, we are not a regular company to start with. So we are a social enterprise fighting against, like with our two main goals, that is to educate people about the harms of air pollution, and secondly, provide low cost yet effective air purifiers. So to speak further, I've prepared a short presentation which will tell about our organizations and like the work we have been doing. So quickly, I'll share my screen. I hope that's visible. Just a second. I hope my screen is now visible. Yeah. So yeah, so let me first start with the story. So this is a pretty much pretty interesting story about Smart Air. I mean, how it came into existence. So there was a guy, Thomas Thellum, you can see here in the blue shirt. So he was a PhD student back in 2013, and he was doing his research back in China, and that's when famous air apocalypse struck. And at that time, he was worried about air pollution because that was a bigger problem in China, like 7 or 8 years back. Then he wanted to protect his health. He decided, okay, let's get an air purifier and I'll solve my problem. The only issue was that the air purifiers at that time were very expensive. It costed over $1,000, and being a student, he could not afford it. So that made him think, like what's actually inside this magic box or air purifier that's costing thousands of dollars. So after that, he did a bit of research, and he found out that air purifiers has essentially consists two components: fan and a HEPA filter. The fan which pushes the air through HEPA filter, and that's when you get clean air. So that's it. I mean, there's nothing more in air purifiers. Is as simple as that. So that is when the Smart Air was started. We started Smart Air. So as I mentioned, Smart Air is a social enterprise. We are B Corp certification, that is Benefit Corporation certified. social enterprise. And our main goal is, to provide education to the people about harms of air pollution, which is, I think, there's a big awareness gap, especially in a country like India. And secondly, ship low cost yet effective air purifiers. So as I mentioned, we are a social enterprise. So profit is not our main motive or not main goal. That is to sell product. So basically, basically whatever profit we make through selling air purifiers, we reinvest 100% of that back to our organization. So out of that, 60% goes to air pollution knowledge and workshops. That includes testing, open data. Then we have like we spend like 20% of money to going to new countries, and further we spend 20% in again in open data. Moving on, as I mentioned, our we have like two main missions. That is to educate people, and secondly to provide affordable clean air. So clean air for good. So the tech products. So as I mentioned before, air purifiers, fan, and a filter, and there is, no complex or no cutting edge technology to it. So keeping that in mind, we build our air purifiers just using two components, fan and a filter. They are very simplistic. As you can see the picture, they are very simple to operate. And also we have been focusing lately on, green packaging and sustainability. Some of our impact. So till now, we have shipped over 75,000 air purifiers. That's all over the world. We are now shipped purifiers to over 30 countries. And that has helped us, saving more than $5 million to the users. That is from the expensive air purifier in the market. So how we do it? We do it very simply. We are direct to the consumer. That is, we cut out the middleman and we direct ship our air purifiers to the user. How this help is, it helps us, cutting out the middleman, so that, we can pass on that saving to our user. I mentioned we are focusing on also sustainability. So this is like from our latest product, the Square, one of the air purifiers. So we try to cut down a lot of plastic. So 99% of the material is actually recyclable. It's like very little plastic part in it. The second goal, which I was mentioning, was education, raising awareness for air pollution. That's we have been doing through our clean air workshops. So till this date, we have conducted over 500 workshop globally. That's in 20 countries. And out of that, there were 15,000 people physically attended those workshops. In this workshop, we talk about, in general, about air pollution as a problem. We talk about a lot of data for purifiers, masks, especially, during this COVID pandemic. We did a lot of research on, let's say, like using the DIY materials for making masks, because at that time, around a year back, there was a huge shortage for the mask. And that is when, we published a lot of data and it helped a lot of people. And we also have like a lot of articles on air pollution. As our founder, Thomas, who is now like a professor at Booth School of Business now, he is very active on Quora. The main goal is, he is like writes about a lot about air pollution in general, and he's like the most viewed writer on Quora platform. These are some of the articles which we write about. This helps in creating awareness, like how you can make your air purifier just by using fan and a filter. Does really pollution mask work? Facts about pollution. So these are some data-backed articles which we publish on our website daily on a regular basis. So this helps educating people, creating awareness, making them informed decision. So this is like the core or the main essence of smart air. And as a workshop, as I mentioned, this is in India. Like we have done workshop in Nature Conservancy, Tushita Foundation, UN Women Council, GIZ. So these are some places we are involved, like in different sectors. And last, with this, I would like to conclude. As we say, clean air is not luxury, and it's a fundamental right. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, clean air is a fundamental right. It's not a luxury, but it has kind of become a luxury these days. We know when we see the air, especially in Delhi, is so polluted. It's one of the most polluted cities in the world to live in. And So it has become precious, but the work is on. People are there like you who are working towards it. Well, we also have with us one of our other innovators, Akanksha Priyadarshini. She represents Phoenix Robotics Private Limited, and she's a passionate engineer by profession, a thriving entrepreneur by choice, and a creative leader by heart. She is the co-founder of Phoenix Robotics Private Limited, and their solution assists in data-driven decision-making and helps formulate better environmental policies, leading to better urban planning. So far, they have implemented their solution across Pan-India with deployments in 12 major cities like Bhubaneswar, Kanpur, Allahabad, Chennai, Kolkata, Ranchi, Rajkot, Coimbatore, Udaipur, Faridabad, Agartala, and Siliguri. So, Akanksha, what are your future plans? And tell us something about your company.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mridhu, for such a nice introduction. I will start by telling what we are doing, and as you brief and the Riyash had told about the innovative solutions that they are developing, I would say like the solution that we are developing is the first step and will assist them in order to check if the environment pollution is under control or not. With that, I would like to share my screen to showcase my presentation. Yeah. So what we want. Yeah, so hello everyone. As Mrityu introduced already, I'm the co-founder of Phoenix Robotics. We are an IoT-based startup. We manufacture smart sensing devices and platform solutions for sustainable applications. We believe that a well-informed and aware ecosystem can only bring drastic changes in these environmental conditions. Environmental awareness will lead to the development of sustainable cities. We aim to bring people together to fight against these rising issues of the environment, namely the pollution, energy, and global warming and climate changes. So in this, the most important role here is the real-time data that we collect from the environment. So real-time data is playing a big role in transforming the lives of the people because this will facilitate informed decisions for optimal health and healthy well-being. And it will also provide a chart on where are we at the current status. So I'll tell about our product AuraSure. AuraSure, the name came in as we are trying to assure the environment, the aura with our product, that is AuraSure. So AuraSure is a hardware integrated software platform. So we have one component where we are having some smart sensors which measures different air pollutants from the environment. So why we developed this product in the first place is the problem with the existing monitors or air quality monitors out there are those are very highly expensive monitoring tools that is existing. Those are approved by the government. So if the Delhi government, for an example, they have installed 20 devices in the city of Delhi. All across India, this picture is more or less because in every city, people will have only one or two devices that government would install there, and that is worth more than like $200,000 each. So with that, other problems that comes with these expensive devices is you need a very high technical expertise in order to use it and maintain it and to analyze the data that is coming out of it. And also the data silo, like the data that is being getting acquired by these devices are not publicly available for all the citizens to get the access to and get some analysis done over it. So the solution AuraSure, this device in this slide is how this device looks. It's very much portable. It does not require extra infrastructure to be to install. It can be installed anywhere. So in a single pole or in a wall, anywhere it can be installed. It is solar powered, so it is self-powered. external power supply is also not needed. Then we have this, the data that we collect here is high resolution modeling, that since it's a low cost or cost effective devices, we can install it in many numbers across the city and get a granular data of the entire city. With that, like the hazard mitigation, city planning policies that needs to be drafted can be done based on the data that we collect from our devices. This is a very cost-effective and scalable model. Thus, we are providing an end-to-end solution for our devices. This is a modular design. Like at places where we identify the sources of pollution are from particular kinds of parameters, we can install more number of sensors in that particular area. Like for example, at certain locations where people are burning the waste out of their houses, their PM 2.5 and PM 10 can be monitored on a larger basis. How these devices are coming and how public can access this data is we are collecting the gases and particulate matters, the sensors, the environmental parameters, temperature, humidity, pressure, noise, weather parameters like wind direction and wind speed. Wind direction and wind speed will lead us to get an information how the wind is flowing, like where this pollution will be leading to from one location to other. Then these data are then transmitted to our mobile application, where we can access this application in our Play Store or Azure application, and we can select one particular city to visualize the data of the devices which are located at a particular location. Our application looks something like this. First page shows the number of sensors that are deployed at in the map where these sensors are deployed. This shows different colors. I mean, the icons are in different colors, which depicts the values of the AQI. If the values are worse or it's in hazardous range, it will show in red or brown color. It's the standard as per the AQI norms. Then we can see and deep dive into one particular parameter and see the trends and basic analytics of the same, how the values are varying, at what particular time the values are very much high. We have spatial analysis feature. This is a very cool feature to have, as it will show in what particular region across a city more pollution is there, and like accordingly, city municipalities or government bodies can plan if to reroute the traffic somewhere else or to take some initiatives on those particular locations where the graph shows the red area, which is a danger zone, and the green zones. These can be like managed so that some traffic or some things can be changed from the red zones to green zones to have the air on an average in a safer area. Then all the devices can be managed. This is, we can skip it over. These are some things like the data comparison. You can have in the mobile app comparison of multiple locations at one place. Then the reports can be downloaded. These reports are very much essential for the analysis agencies, the EIA, for an EIA analysis report. This can be useful for people or students who want to do analysis on the air quality of certain locations. Those people can also utilize the data. Then we have options for remote calibration. This is something we talked about the problem. The high-end devices that the government is installing, those require continuous maintenance and a manpower dedicated for the maintenance of the air quality monitors. Since we have these devices manufactured in India, and we have developed the technology so that we do not want to visit the site or have a dedicated manpower for the maintenance. We do remote calibration. We can calibrate the sensors whenever the values are varying, or if we need to change any configuration of the devices, that also can be done remotely. We can configure alerts and notifications to specific numbers, where the SMS and email alerts can be sent whenever the threshold limits for particular parameters are high. The applications where these kind of devices can be installed, like in smart cities, already Mridu had told, like where in all smart cities, more than 20 cities we have installed our devices. in the smart cities. In industries, for compliance monitoring and for the fence line monitoring, we can install our air quality monitoring devices. In communities and hospitals, through Cleaner Asia only, we have installed in many schools devices in order to monitor the air pollution levels with the students who are more critically affected by the air pollution, the values they are exposed to. In the construction sites where the values of PM is too high and many workers would be working there, and the research areas, as we told, people can utilize this data for different research purposes and develop multiple algorithms for or the development of different devices to control air pollution. So the key customers we have mentioned here, we actually, some of the success stories I would like to mention. We were the winner of Innovate for Digital India Challenge in 2015 for this particular solution. We were awarded the title of Royal Fellow in the LIF program in the Royal Academy of Engineering, London. We were also selected in the top 3 winners of Karnataka Impact Challenge in Karnataka for the sustainable monitoring solutions. And we were felicitated by Communication Minister of India in 2015 and have presented our solution to the President of India during that time.
So thank you, Akanksha. Well, thank you, Sanjay and Dharyesh also. All of you are, doing such a great work for the society. Through your innovative products, you're trying to mitigate the air pollution and improve the air quality. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you. And we also have with us Ms. Prerna Sharma, who's a program coordinator at Clean Air Asia India. Prerna, are you there? We have Prerna here.
Hi.
Prerna, would you like to
everyone.
sum up?
Hi, Priyanka. Hi, Akanksha. Hi, Sanjay. Hi, Priyash.
Prerna, I request you to sum up the entire day's proceedings. Though this platform is going to, remain open and be available till late this evening, but for now, I think we'll be wrapping up, and I request you to please say a few words.
Thank you, Madhu. Thank you so much, and thank you all of you three for being here and presenting your products. I would just like to say a few words at the end of this session, though we were going to end it by 4:30, but now because it is something that it is time is saying that okay, wrap up early, so that's fine. So it has been really a very interesting and exciting day so far. First and foremost, I will like to thank our exhibitors who have exhibited their clean technologies and innovation. It is inspiring to see that we have so many technologies which can help mitigate air pollution and improve air quality. We have had such eminent speakers and panelists today from whom we could learn so much. We had such interesting discussion on the importance of incubators and the role of technology in today's scenario. We need to capitalize on the technological solutions we presently have, and we are conducive to our environment. It is always necessary to talk about community engagement, which was discussed by Dr. Vivek Saxena and Dr. Gary Huck. We had Eric, Mr. Yogesh, and Mr. Pradeep helping us understand how incubators are assisting and supporting in promoting new technology. And not to forget, I would like to thank all the visitors who joined us today, participated in our activities like quiz and slogans. We will definitely give goodies of Cleaner Asias to winner of these contests. And lastly but not least, thank you Mridu for being a very interactive MC for today. Again, now I would like to thank you for joining us in the virtual fair, and you still have time to visit the stalls till today's night. Anytime you can just log in and visit the fair, visit the booths of exhibitors, and please again you can share the link with your friends to just come and watch our virtual booths. Thank you so much.
That was program coordinator of Clean Air Asia India, Prerna Sharma. Congratulations, Prerna, and your entire team for organizing such a wonderful, such informative online virtual exhibition. That was really very inspiring. Well, Clean Air Asia has been, since its inception, contributing to better air quality with its technology inventions, scientific inputs, capacity building, and so on. In India, it engages with the Indian cities for better air quality management through its various programs. AirTech Fair had the participation of individuals, corporates, social groups, innovators, technology firms, scientific institutes, air quality experts and practitioners, and other stakeholders, and of course, all the exhibitors from all across India and different parts of the world. And the presentations in the inaugural session were very illuminating and inspiring, and the discussions among the innovators, incubators, and people from technology and community engagement space had many, many takeaways. The challenges are still, aplenty, but we can overcome these challenges with our grit and determination, and that we have in plenty. In India, in the world, people are very aware of the air being polluted, and we have to mitigate that. We have to make our air better, because we are what we breathe. So on behalf of Clean Air Asia, thank you all once again. Thank you.
Thank you.